Have you ever stopped and wondered if everything around you, the people, the objects, even the ideas we cherish, are really the way they seem? Or if they're just reflections of something far more profound, far more real? Plato, one of the greatest minds in human history, proposed exactly that: the idea that the world we live in, with all its vibrant colors and sensations, may only be a shadow of something far deeper and more perfect. Could what you see with your eyes be just a fleeting illusion, a mere flicker of the true essence of reality? In this video, we're about to delve into one of Plato's most revolutionary ideas, his theory of forms, and explore how this ancient concept holds the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of the world and ourselves. Stick with us to the end, and you might just come away with a powerful new perspective that could change the way you see everything. Plato, the student of Socrates and one of the cornerstones of Western philosophy, lived in ancient Greece during a time of great intellectual upheaval. After the tragic death of his teacher, Socrates, Plato was left with a profound sense of loss and a deep desire to preserve Socratic wisdom. However, instead of merely safeguarding his mentor's teachings, Plato took it a step further. He became determined to push the boundaries of human thought and understanding, developing ideas that would lay the foundation for much of modern philosophy. Today, Plato's ideas continue to shape everything from political theory to the nature of knowledge itself. Yet, perhaps one of his most compelling and timeless concepts is his theory of forms, which challenges us to think about the very nature of reality. The theory of forms suggests that the physical world around us, the one we experience with our senses, is not the true reality. Instead, the true, unchanging reality exists beyond our sensory experiences. Plato believed that everything we see, touch, and feel is merely a shadow or reflection of a higher, perfect form. Think about it. What we consider to be a tree is not the perfect form of a tree, but just a temporary, flawed representation of it. The same applies to everything from objects and living beings to abstract concepts like love, beauty, and even justice. These, according to Plato, have an ideal form that transcends the imperfect versions we encounter in the physical world. But why does this matter to us today? How can this ancient philosophy influence the way we live, think, and interact with the world? Plato's theory isn't just an intellectual curiosity. It challenges us to look beyond the surface of reality. It calls us to dig deeper, to seek the true nature of things, and to question whether what we perceive with our senses is truly all there is. And this is exactly what we're going to explore in this video. How can Plato's theory of forms help us navigate the complexities of modern life, our understanding of knowledge, and even the way we view the society we live in? In the coming sections, we'll break down the key elements of Plato's theory of forms, discuss its implications for the nature of knowledge, and take a closer look at how his vision of an ideal society might hold valuable lessons for us today. We'll also see how Plato's thoughts on reality and perception can help us become more mindful of the world around us and the truths that often lie beneath the surface. But before we dive into the details, let's take a moment to understand the core of Plato's philosophy. Why did he believe that our senses, the very tools we use to interact with the world, are unreliable? How could he assert that the reality we experience daily is merely a shadow of something more perfect? And most intriguingly, what did he mean by the forms? And how can these abstract concepts reshape our approach to knowledge and existence? At its heart, the theory of forms challenges the notion that what we perceive with our senses is the ultimate truth. Plato argued that everything in the physical world is constantly changing, decaying, and imperfect, and because of this, it cannot be the true reality. In his view, true knowledge, the kind that leads us to wisdom, can only be found when we look beyond the physical world and tap into the eternal, unchanging realm of the forms. To illustrate this, imagine you're looking at a tree. You might see its green leaves, its bark, and its branches. But according to Plato, all of these physical characteristics are simply fleeting manifestations of a deeper, more perfect idea of what a tree truly is, an idea that exists independently of any specific tree you might encounter. This ideal tree, if you will, resides in a realm that Plato calls the world of forms. a transcendent, metaphysical dimension where perfect versions of all things exist. Now, you might be wondering, how does this all relate to the way we live today? Why should we care about perfect forms when we're faced with the daily challenges of work, relationships, and personal growth? Plato's philosophy speaks directly to our modern condition. In a world where distractions are endless, where our attention is often pulled in a million different directions, and where we often settle for surface-level understanding, Plato's message is more relevant than ever. He teaches us to seek out the deeper truths, those that lie beneath the appearances, and to approach the world with intellectual honesty and rigor. By understanding and recognizing the imperfection of the world around us, we can begin to strive for a greater sense of clarity, purpose, and alignment with these higher truths. One of the most striking elements of Plato's theory of forms is its challenge to the notion of change and imperfection in the physical world. Plato believed that true knowledge is unchanging, eternal, and perfect. In contrast, everything we experience in the physical realm is constantly shifting and incomplete. This idea has profound implications for our understanding of knowledge itself. Plato suggests that to truly know something, we must grasp its perfect form, not simply rely on the fragmented and transient versions of it that we encounter in our everyday lives. For example, think about a concept like justice. Plato would argue that there is an ideal form of justice, something pure, eternal, and unchanging that exists independently of any real-world application. Every attempt to create a just society or enact justice in the physical world is merely a reflection of this ideal form. And while no society may ever fully embody the perfect form of justice, we can strive to approximate it through reason, wisdom, and understanding. The same logic applies to concepts like love, beauty, and goodness. These abstract ideals exist beyond our ability to fully comprehend them, yet they serve as guiding principles that shape our actions and aspirations. As we move further into this video, we'll explore how Plato's thoughts on justice, knowledge, and the ideal society can be applied to our modern lives. We'll take a look at how his philosophy of reason, intellect, and the pursuit of truth can help us overcome the limitations of our senses and lead us toward a higher understanding of ourselves and the world. Plato's ultimate vision was a society built on wisdom and virtue, where the rulers, the philosopher-kings, would guide the people toward the realization of the highest truths. But this journey toward the deeper truths isn't always easy. Plato recognized that breaking free from the illusions of the physical world requires effort and intellectual discipline. His famous Allegory of the Cave presents the idea that most people live their lives in ignorance, chained to a narrow understanding of reality. It's only through education, self-reflection, and the pursuit of knowledge that we can break free from these chains and move toward the light of true understanding. As we continue this philosophical journey, we invite you to think deeply about Plato's ideas. Do you accept the reality you experience through your senses? Or do you seek to go beyond the surface and uncover the deeper, hidden truths of the world? How might Plato's insights into knowledge, perception, and justice shape the way we live today? And what can we learn from his vision of an ideal society? Stay with us as we unpack these powerful ideas and more in the rest of this video. By the end, we hope you'll have a new perspective on the world around you, a perspective that encourages you to see beyond the shadows and into the light of true knowledge and wisdom. Let's dive in. Plato's distinction between empirical knowledge and true knowledge delves into a fundamental aspect of his philosophy that continues to shape how we approach the nature of reality and the way we gain understanding. In Plato's view, the knowledge we acquire through our senses, the things we see, hear, taste, and touch, constitutes what he refers to as empirical knowledge. This type of knowledge is grounded in the material world, based on what we directly observe in our daily lives. We rely on our senses to navigate the world, and it works well enough for everyday tasks. For instance, if we see a tree, touch its bark, and hear the rustle of its leaves, we consider ourselves to know that the tree exists. This sensory experience, however, is just the surface level of understanding for Plato. It's functional, but it doesn't tap into the deeper, more abstract understanding of the essence of that tree, or of the reality around us. Empirical knowledge, in Plato's system, is akin to the shadows on the wall in his famous allegory of the cave. In the allegory, prisoners are confined to a dark cave and can only see the shadows cast by objects behind them. These shadows are all they know, yet they believe them to be the entirety of existence. In the same way, the knowledge derived from our senses is limited to mere appearances. What we perceive with our eyes or touch with our hands is only a part of the true, unchanging reality that Plato argues lies beyond our physical world. To understand this better, consider the example of a famous leader like Elon Musk. Musk has created groundbreaking companies like Tesla and SpaceX, and much of his success is built on his ability to think beyond the immediate, empirical knowledge of current technology and innovation. When he first proposed the idea of a fully electric vehicle that could perform at the level of gasoline-powered cars, many thought it was impossible. He wasn't just relying on existing knowledge of cars. He imagined a better, more sustainable version of reality, a vision that went beyond the empirical world of what was currently available. In Plato's terms, Musk's vision was based on true knowledge that transcends the sensory world and seeks to understand the underlying forms or ideals of innovation and progress. True knowledge, for Plato, is something far more profound than the knowledge we gain through our senses. He believed that what we see around us in the physical world is a mere reflection of a higher, more perfect reality that exists in the realm of forms. Forms are abstract, eternal, and unchanging ideas or concepts that exist independently of the material world. They are the perfect versions of the objects, concepts, and ideas that we encounter in everyday life. So, when we see a tree, what we are really experiencing is not the perfect, ideal tree in its truest form. Instead, we are witnessing an imperfect version of that tree, a mere shadow of its true, ideal existence. The difference between empirical knowledge and true knowledge is crucial. Empirical knowledge might tell us that a tree is tall, green, and has a rough texture. It might give us all the information we need to identify a tree in the natural world. But according to Plato, this is not enough. The true knowledge, the wisdom of the tree, comes from understanding the form of tree, the ideal, perfect concept of what a tree is. This form is not tied to any specific tree or physical object, but exists as an eternal, unchanging idea that our minds can access through reasoning and intellectual understanding. The concept of the forms might seem abstract, but Plato used this idea to explain the very nature of reality. He argued that the material world is constantly changing. Trees grow, flowers bloom, and buildings decay. The physical world is in a state of flux, and because of this, it cannot be the source of true knowledge. To gain wisdom, we must look beyond the changing world of appearances and access the realm of forms. This, for Plato, is the only way to understand the essence of things. To illustrate this distinction further, let's consider the world of politics and leadership. Figures like Winston Churchill, Nelson Mandela, and Mahatma Gandhi did not simply observe the world as it was. They sought to transcend the immediate reality, the empirical knowledge of their time, and envisioned a different, better world. Churchill's leadership during World War II was not based merely on what he saw in the battles or what his senses told him about the situation. Instead, he saw the larger picture, the ideal of liberty and justice that transcended the chaos of war. Similarly, Mandela's vision for a post-apartheid South Africa was not rooted in the current oppressive reality. It was based on the ideal of equality and justice, a higher truth that he sought to bring to life despite the harsh empirical realities of his time. These leaders, much like Plato's philosopher kings, looked beyond the physical world and tried to create a society based on a higher understanding of what was truly good. They were not content with the status quo or the shadows cast by the world they lived in. They aimed for something greater, a reality that was shaped by their ideal visions. In this sense, they embodied Plato's notion of true knowledge, understanding that transcends what we see and touches on deeper truths about justice, equality, and humanity. Now, imagine the experience of a tree once again. You see a tree in a park, and you might immediately notice its size, color, and shape. This is the empirical knowledge of the tree. But for Plato, The essence of the tree, its form, exists as an ideal concept. This ideal tree is perfect and unchanging, beyond any specific tree you encounter in your life. Every tree in the world is simply a manifestation of this perfect form. Plato believed that the way to grasp the true nature of any object or concept, whether it's a tree, a chair, or justice, is not by relying on our senses, but by turning inward, using reason to access the eternal truths of the forms. In our daily lives, we might think of concepts like love, justice, or beauty. These are abstract ideas that we encounter in different forms. But according to Plato, there is a perfect, unchanging form of each of these ideas that exists beyond our sensory world. For example, love might manifest in countless ways between different people and situations, but there is an ideal, perfect form of love that exists in the realm of forms. Our understanding of love can never be complete unless we recognize this higher, perfect reality of love, beyond the superficial experiences we encounter. This deeper understanding requires an intellectual journey. Plato didn't believe that sensory experience or empirical knowledge could give us the answers to life's most profound questions. Instead, he believed that true knowledge came from contemplating and reflecting on the world of forms, using reason to uncover the eternal truths that lie beyond our immediate perceptions. One way to think about this in modern terms is by looking at how we approach technology and innovation. Take Steve Jobs. For instance, Jobs didn't create Apple just by relying on empirical knowledge of the existing technology. He envisioned the perfect, ideal experience of using a computer, a phone, or a tablet, and he built his products around that vision. Jobs, much like Plato's philosopher king, was not content with the empirical world of existing technology. He saw something beyond it, a perfect form of the user experience that he sought to bring into the material world. This vision of the ideal led to products that revolutionized the way we interact with technology. In essence, Plato's philosophy challenges us to go beyond the superficial, to look past the shadows on the wall and question the world around us. By doing so, we can reach for a deeper, more meaningful understanding of the world, an understanding rooted not in the fleeting appearances of things, but in the eternal, unchanging truths that exist in the realm of forms. And just as figures like Musk, Mandela, and Jobs looked beyond the immediate, empirical reality to shape a better world, we too can strive for a higher understanding, not just of the objects around us, but of the larger truths that govern our lives. The pursuit of true knowledge, for Plato, is a philosophical journey, one that requires deep thought, intellectual discipline, and a willingness to challenge the assumptions of the sensory world. It's not easy, but it's a pursuit that can lead us to a deeper, more meaningful understanding of reality, and ultimately, to wisdom. Plato's theory of forms is a profound exploration of reality, one that challenges our perceptions of the world we live in. According to Plato, the material world we interact with is only a mere shadow or imitation of a higher, unchanging, and perfect reality, the world of forms. The forms represent the true essence of things, existing independently of the physical world. This realm is timeless and eternal, while the world we experience through our senses is subject to change and imperfection. Plato's theory suggests that the objects and concepts we encounter in daily life are mere approximations of these ideal forms. Consider the example of a chair. Every chair you've ever seen, whether it's a wooden rocking chair, a modern office chair, or a foldable plastic chair, has its own unique characteristics, size, color, and style. Yet, in our minds, we have an ideal or perfect concept of what a chair is. This perfect idea of a chair is not bound by the specifics of any individual chair, but instead represents the essence of what it means to be a chair. According to Plato, this ideal chair exists in the world of forms, a realm that transcends the material world and is beyond human perception. For Plato, everything in the material world participates in these forms. The physical chairs we sit on are imperfect copies of the perfect form of the chair, while the material world is filled with variations. The forms themselves are pure and unchanging. For instance, the concept of beauty itself is a perfect form that transcends any particular beautiful object. The flowers in a garden, a sunset, or a piece of art may be beautiful, but they are all temporary and subject to decay. The true form of beauty is eternal, unchanging, and exists beyond the realm of our senses. The same can be said for other abstract concepts like justice, love, and equality. Each of these exists as a perfect and eternal form that is reflected, though imperfectly, in the material world. This distinction between the physical and the metaphysical is central to Plato's philosophy. It's not just about understanding physical objects. It's about understanding the unchanging truths that underpin reality. Plato believed that our senses are unreliable when it comes to understanding the true nature of things. What we see, hear, and touch may mislead us into thinking we understand reality. But according to Plato, we are merely perceiving the shadows of true reality. The true nature of things can only be known through reason and intellect, not through sensory experience. One of the most powerful implications of Plato's theory of forms is its potential to explain the phenomenon of déjà vu. Have you ever experienced a moment where you feel as though you've been somewhere or done something before, even though you know you haven't? Plato would argue that this sensation is not a result of mere coincidence or memory, but a glimpse into the world of forms. According to him, our souls have encountered these perfect forms before our birth, and the sense of recognition we experience in these moments of déjà vu is a reminder of that pre-birth knowledge. For example, imagine walking into a room and encountering a particular piece of furniture. It feels strangely familiar, and you can't help but think, "I've seen this before." Plato would suggest that this sensation is not a trick of the mind, but a recollection of the perfect form of the chair that your soul encountered before you were born. In this view, knowledge is not something that is learned in the traditional sense, but something that is remembered or recalled from a previous existence. While Plato's theory of forms can seem abstract, it is an idea that resonates in many aspects of modern thought. Philosophers, artists, and thinkers throughout history have grappled with similar questions about the nature of reality, perception, and knowledge. In modern times, we may not speak in terms of the world of forms, but the idea that there is a deeper, underlying truth to existence persists. For example, in the realm of mathematics, the numbers and concepts we work with, such as the number pi, or the idea of symmetry, are not merely human creations, but are seen by many as timeless truths that exist independent of human perception. One can also draw parallels between Plato's theory and the world of technology and design. Consider the field of user experience design. Designers work with the idea of creating the perfect user interface or user experience. But these perfect designs are not bound by any particular app or website. Instead, they represent an idealized concept of what makes an experience intuitive and user-friendly. The perfect form of a design is not found in any one product, but in the ideal principles that underpin successful design. Just as Plato believed that the perfect chair exists in the world of forms, designers believe that the perfect user experience exists as an ideal that transcends any individual product. Artists, too, engage with the idea of forms, often seeking to capture the essence of beauty, truth, or emotion in their work. A painter may attempt to create the perfect portrait, or a sculptor may strive to embody the ideal human form in marble. These works are, of course, imperfect representations, but they attempt to reflect a higher truth or essence of what it means to be beautiful, human, or emotional. The notion of an ideal, perfect form lies at the heart of artistic endeavors, much as it does in Plato's metaphysical world. Even in the realm of science, Plato's ideas can be seen to have some resonance. For example, the concept of scientific laws, such as the laws of physics, suggests that there are fundamental principles that govern the universe, independent of human experience or interpretation. These laws, much like Plato's forms, exist beyond our immediate sensory experience. We may observe their effects in the physical world, but the laws themselves are not dependent on any particular instance or object. The idea that our perceptions are limited and that there is a deeper truth beneath the surface is also reflected in the work of contemporary thinkers. For instance, the physicist Albert Einstein famously said, "Reality is merely an illusion." albeit a very persistent one. This reflects Plato's idea that what we see and experience in the material world is not the full extent of reality. According to Einstein, just as Plato argued, the true nature of existence lies beyond our immediate sensory experience and can only be understood through deeper inquiry and intellect. The pursuit of understanding these deeper truths has been a hallmark of human history. Think of individuals like Leonardo da Vinci or Nikola Tesla, who sought to understand the world not just as it appeared, but as it truly was. Da Vinci, through his art and inventions, sought to capture the deeper principles of nature and human anatomy. Tesla, in his scientific work, envisioned a world where technology could transcend the limits of the physical world and bring about a new understanding of energy and power. These individuals, much like Plato, recognized that there was a deeper truth behind the surface-level appearances of the world. While Plato's theory of forms offers a complex and somewhat abstract view of reality, it serves as a powerful reminder that the world we perceive is not the complete story. By questioning our sensory experiences and striving to understand the deeper, unchanging truths that lie behind them, we can gain a richer understanding of reality. This pursuit of wisdom, of seeking the forms, is a timeless endeavor that transcends both ancient philosophy and modern science, art, and technology. The journey to understand the perfect chair, or the perfect form of beauty or justice, may never be fully realized, but the process of seeking it is what drives human progress and intellectual inquiry forward. Plato's allegory of the cave is one of the most powerful and enduring metaphors in Western philosophy. It vividly illustrates the philosopher's views on the nature of human perception, knowledge, and the pursuit of truth. Through the story of prisoners chained in a dark cave, Plato invites us to question the limitations of our sensory experiences and encourages us to seek a deeper, more profound understanding of reality. The allegory's central theme is the idea that many people live their lives in a state of ignorance, mistaking appearances for truth, and rejecting the deeper, more complex realities that lie beyond the surface. The allegory begins by depicting a group of prisoners who have been chained inside a dark cave for their entire lives. These prisoners are positioned in such a way that they can only see the wall in front of them. Behind them, there is a fire burning, and between the fire and the prisoners are various objects and puppeteers who cast shadows onto the wall. Since the prisoners have never seen the objects directly or experienced the world outside of the cave, they come to believe that these shadows are the only reality. They have no knowledge of the true forms of the objects casting the shadows or of the world beyond the cave. For them, the shadows are the totality of existence. This situation reflects Plato's belief that most people live their lives similarly, trapped in a world of sensory perceptions and limited understanding. The prisoner's inability to perceive anything beyond the shadows symbolizes how individuals are often confined by their senses, believing what they see, hear, or feel to be the whole truth. In the cave, there is no questioning of the shadows. The prisoners have no reason to believe that what they see is anything but the entirety of reality. This represents how many people rely on their immediate perceptions and experiences to form their beliefs, without ever seeking to explore or understand what lies beyond their sensory world. One prisoner, however, manages to break free from his chains. He ventures out of the cave, struggling at first against the overwhelming light of the outside world. The transition from the dark, confined space of the cave to the bright, expansive world outside is painful and disorienting. At first, the freed prisoner can only look at shadows and then at the reflections in the water. Gradually, he is able to gaze at the objects themselves, and finally, he looks up at the sun. The sun represents the ultimate source of truth and knowledge, the source of reality itself. The sun, in Plato's philosophy, is akin to the form of the good, the highest and most perfect reality, the ultimate principle that illuminates all other forms of knowledge and existence. The freed prisoner, having encountered the light of true knowledge, experiences a profound shift in understanding. The shadows on the wall, which once seemed like the only reality, now appear insignificant and illusory. The true reality, the world outside the cave, becomes clear to him. The objects in the world, illuminated by the light of the sun, represent the true forms of things, untainted by the distortions of perception and illusion. The freed prisoner, now enlightened, understands that what he had previously known was not the real world, but a mere shadow of it. However, when this enlightened prisoner attempts to return to the cave to share his newfound knowledge with the others, he is met with resistance and hostility. The other prisoners cannot comprehend the reality that he has discovered, and they reject his account of the outside world. They are so deeply entrenched in their belief that the shadows on the wall represent the entirety of existence that they are unwilling to entertain the possibility of anything beyond that. They mock and even threaten the freed prisoner, unwilling to accept the discomforting truth that their lives have been built on illusions. This reaction reflects how people often resist change and cling to familiar, albeit false, beliefs because they feel threatened by the unknown. The allegory, while simple in its narrative, speaks to the heart of many human experiences. It illustrates how people can become so attached to their limited perspectives and perceptions that they reject deeper truths, even when presented with compelling evidence. This is especially true when it comes to deeply held beliefs or worldviews. It's much easier to accept the world as we know it, to stay within the confines of the metaphorical cave, than to venture out into the unknown and challenge our perceptions. The shadows, after all, are comforting because they are familiar. The light outside the cave, on the other hand, is difficult to face because it forces us to confront the limitations of our knowledge and the possibility that we might have been wrong about fundamental aspects of our reality. In the modern world, this allegory has particular relevance. We live in a time where information is more accessible than ever before, yet it is often distorted or filtered in ways that make it difficult to discern truth from falsehood. Many people rely on social media, news outlets, and other forms of media to shape their understanding of the world. However, just as the prisoners in the cave accept the shadows as reality, many individuals accept the information presented to them without questioning its validity or considering the broader context. The rise of echo chambers, in which people are exposed only to information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs, exemplifies the allegory in action. For example, think about the way in which political figures, celebrities, or even influencers present themselves on social media. These individuals, who have vast amounts of power and influence, often shape the way we perceive reality. They create curated versions of themselves, showing only the aspects of their lives they want us to see. Much like the shadows on the wall of the cave, followers may come to believe that these carefully constructed versions of reality are true representations of the person or the world, even though they may be far from the whole truth. One striking contemporary example is the way in which figures like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg have become symbols of innovation and success in the tech world. The image of these figures is carefully constructed in the public eye, and their stories are told through media that often oversimplify or glorify their lives. The public may come to see their success as a model to be emulated, assuming that these figures have access to a deeper knowledge or a better understanding of the world, much like the prisoner who emerges from the cave and discovers the sun. However, just as the freed prisoner's journey is one of personal growth and enlightenment, it's important to remember that the image presented to the public may only be a shadow of the true complexities and struggles these individuals face. Furthermore, the allegory invites us to consider how we can become prisoners to our own beliefs, ideologies, and worldviews. It challenges us to question whether we are truly seeing the world as it is or whether we are merely seeing the shadows of our own preconceived notions. Just as the prisoners in the cave cannot see the objects themselves, we may be limited by the narrowness of our own understanding. This limitation can be seen in the ways in which people cling to certain ideologies or narratives that fit neatly into their existing worldview, rejecting new perspectives or inconvenient truths. Take, for example, the rise of misinformation and fake news in the digital age. In today's world, individuals often find themselves trapped in echo chambers, where they are surrounded by information that reinforces their existing beliefs, even when that information is false or misleading. This phenomenon is particularly evident in political discourse, where individuals may refuse to consider alternative viewpoints, instead focusing on news sources and media that align with their preconceived notions. In such cases, people are living like the prisoners in Plato's cave, seeing only the shadows of reality and rejecting the light of truth and understanding. But just as the freed prisoner ventures out into the light and comes to understand the true nature of reality, Plato challenges us to break free from our own intellectual chains. He urges us to seek out the truth, no matter how uncomfortable or disorienting it may be. The journey from the shadows to the light is not easy. It requires intellectual courage, open-mindedness, and a willingness to confront the limitations of our own knowledge. But it is only through this process of questioning and discovery that we can come closer to understanding the deeper truths of existence. In this sense, Plato's allegory of the cave is not just a story about individuals in a fictional cave. It is a metaphor for the human condition itself. It challenges us to consider whether we are content to live in the comfort of the shadows, accepting the world as it appears to us, or whether we are willing to step into the light, to question our assumptions, and to seek out a deeper, more profound understanding of reality. The allegory calls us to rise above the illusions of the material world and embrace the search for truth, even if it means confronting uncomfortable realities along the way. In the world that Plato describes, true knowledge is not derived from what we can see, hear, or touch, but from the intellect's ability to reason and contemplate higher, eternal truths. The forms Plato holds that the senses, which provide us with the raw material of experience, are deceptive. They only show us the world in its imperfect, fleeting form. The real, unchanging reality. The forms can only be understood through the application of reason, which serves as the tool for accessing knowledge that transcends the material world. This distinction between reason and the senses is central to Plato's epistemology, the study of knowledge, and has had a profound influence on Western philosophy ever since. Plato's theory is rooted in the idea that there is a significant difference between the empirical world, the world we experience through our senses, and the world of forms, which can only be accessed through intellectual insight and reasoning. The empirical world is a world of change and imperfection. Things in the physical world are in a constant state of flux. They are born, grow, decay, and die. For instance, think about the concept of a tree. Every tree you've ever seen is different in shape, size, color, and condition. Some are tall, some short, some are healthy, others are withered. Despite these differences, we can still recognize that they are all trees in a general sense. Plato would argue that this recognition is not because of the senses, but because we are accessing the form of a tree in abstract, perfect ideal of a tree that exists in the world of forms. This notion that reason is the means to access higher knowledge is especially significant when compared to the way many of us engage with the world today. In the modern age, we are inundated with information from every direction: news, social media, advertisements, and even personal opinions, all of which appeal to our senses and emotions. In a sense, we are surrounded by shadows on the wall of Plato's cave. These external influences often provoke strong emotional reactions in us, shaping our understanding of reality based on surface-level appearances rather than deeper truths. The reliance on emotional responses or immediate sensory input can lead us to make decisions based on impulse or instinct, rather than careful reasoning and intellectual contemplation. This is particularly evident in the way people engage with political discourse today. Political leaders, media outlets, and even influencers on social media often present simplified or distorted versions of reality to sway public opinion. The aim is often not to cultivate reasoned understanding, but to evoke strong emotional reactions: fear, anger, hope, or even adoration that lead to quick decisions and opinions. Take, for instance, the way social media influencers often craft a version of reality that is idealized, polished, or manipulated to serve a particular agenda. These crafted versions of reality appeal to our senses and emotions, but don't necessarily reflect deeper truths about who these individuals are or what the world is really like. Like the prisoners in Plato's cave, many are left with only the shadows of reality, illusions that are easy to accept because they appeal to our feelings, rather than challenging us to think critically. One of the clearest examples of this phenomenon in the modern world is the rise of fake news and misinformation. With the advent of digital media and the ease of sharing information across the globe, individuals can now be exposed to a continuous stream of content that may not be entirely factual. Often, these stories are designed to provoke a quick emotional response, whether it be anger, fear, or excitement. The sensation of being informed is seductive, and people may feel they understand an issue without truly analyzing it. Plato would argue that this is a perfect example of how relying on the senses, and not on reason, can lead us astray. In contrast, Plato urges us to elevate our thinking beyond these distractions and focus on deeper intellectual reflection. This requires a kind of mental discipline that goes beyond merely reacting to the information we encounter. It involves stepping back from immediate sensations and taking the time to reason, question, and seek out deeper understanding. It is through reason, Plato argues, that we can access the world of the forms, where true knowledge resides. Reason allows us to see beyond the surface of things, to understand their true nature, and to connect ideas in ways that transcend individual experiences. Consider, for example, the work of someone like Bill Gates, who is often seen as one of the most influential figures in the tech world. Gates is not just known for his role in founding Microsoft, but also for his efforts in global health and philanthropy. His success in these fields can be attributed, in part, to his ability to think beyond the immediate, empirical world. Gates is someone who has used his reason to understand complex global issues, such as disease prevention and education, and has applied that knowledge to create lasting change. His capacity for deep intellectual reflection, combined with his reasoned approach to problem-solving, has allowed him to affect the world in ways that go beyond immediate sensory perceptions and emotional responses. Similarly, the intellectual journey that many scientists embark upon illustrates Plato's argument for the primacy of reason. Take the example of Albert Einstein, whose theory of relativity revolutionized our understanding of space and time. Einstein did not arrive at his insights by relying solely on what he could see or feel. Instead, his breakthrough came through reasoning, thinking about the fundamental nature of the universe, questioning established norms, and pushing the boundaries of what was known at the time. Einstein's work continues to shape the field of physics because it provides deeper insights into the nature of reality, insights that go beyond what our senses can directly tell us. Plato's philosophy does not discount the value of sensory experience entirely. After all, it is through our senses that we engage with the world and gather the raw data necessary for intellectual reflection. However, Plato argues that relying solely on the senses to form our understanding of the world limits our ability to access deeper truths. For Plato, true knowledge is not about perceiving things in the moment, but about understanding their deeper, unchanging nature. For instance, while we can perceive a beautiful painting with our eyes, Plato would argue that the essence of beauty itself is not contained within the painting, but is an ideal that exists in the world of forms. The painting may be a beautiful object in the material world, but it is only through reason and intellectual engagement that we can understand beauty as a concept, one that transcends any particular object or sensory experience. This emphasis on reason also highlights the importance of intellectual honesty and self-reflection in Plato's thought. In today's world, where it is all too easy to be swayed by surface-level arguments or emotional appeals, Plato's emphasis on intellectual honesty is crucial. It's important to ask ourselves not just whether something feels right or aligns with our pre-existing beliefs, but whether it stands up to scrutiny. Are we relying on the senses and emotions to form our opinions? Or are we engaging in thoughtful reasoning? Intellectual honesty involves acknowledging that our initial perceptions may be incomplete or misleading, and being open to reevaluating our views when presented with new information. Plato's focus on reason also speaks to the idea of personal growth and self-improvement. In a world where many people seek instant gratification and easy answers, Plato's philosophy reminds us that true understanding comes from sustained effort and intellectual discipline. It's not enough to rely on immediate sensory perceptions or emotional reactions. Instead, we must engage in careful thought, ask probing questions, and challenge our assumptions. This process of intellectual growth requires patience and persistence, as well as the humility to recognize that we may not always have access to the full truth. This notion of growth through reason is exemplified by leaders and figures who have made significant contributions to society through deep, reasoned thinking. Consider figures like Warren Buffett, known for his ability to think strategically about investing and wealth building. Buffett's success is not the result of mere impulse or emotional decision-making. Instead, it comes from years of applying careful reasoning to assess value, risk, and opportunity. His decisions are grounded in intellectual reflection and a deep understanding of the financial world, which allows him to make choices that others may overlook. In contrast, when decisions are made purely on the basis of sensory perceptions or emotional impulses, the outcomes are often less reliable and less enduring. This is why Plato argues that real knowledge must go beyond what is immediately available through the senses. It's about understanding the deeper realities that lie beneath the surface. In summary, Plato's emphasis on reason as the path to true knowledge challenges us to engage with the world in a more thoughtful, reflective way. It calls on us to move beyond the superficiality of our immediate sensory experiences and emotional reactions, and to pursue deeper understanding through intellectual reflection. In doing so, we can access the world of the forms, the higher knowledge that transcends the fleeting, imperfect world we experience through our senses. In a world filled with distractions and surface-level information, Plato's philosophy offers a powerful reminder of the importance of reason and intellectual honesty in the pursuit of truth and wisdom. Plato's vision of the ideal society, presented in the Republic, is built on the foundation of justice, order, and the harmonious fulfillment of roles. The central idea behind this model is that a just society, like the soul of an individual, should be structured in such a way that each part performs its designated function, contributing to the overall balance and well-being of the whole. To illustrate this idea, Plato draws a parallel between the divisions of the soul and the divisions of society. Just as the human soul consists of reason, spirit, and appetite, the ideal society should consist of three corresponding classes: rulers, warriors, and workers. The harmony of these classes is crucial to the establishment of a just society. At the heart of Plato's political philosophy is the belief that justice is achieved when each individual and group within society performs the role for which they are best suited. In Plato's model, the rulers, who are philosopher kings, represent reason. These rulers are the wisest individuals in society, those who have attained knowledge of the forms, particularly the form of the good, which Plato sees as the highest form of knowledge and understanding. Philosophers, having devoted their lives to intellectual inquiry and the pursuit of truth, are in the best position to govern because they can make decisions based on reason and not on personal desires or emotions. The second class in Plato's ideal society consists of the warriors, who represent spirit. The warriors are tasked with defending the society and maintaining order. They are courageous, disciplined, and loyal to the community. Their role is to protect the society from external threats and ensure that the law is upheld. Just as the spirit part of the soul provides the drive to defend and protect the rational part, the warriors defend the society to preserve its structure and justice. Finally, the third class of society is the workers, who represent appetite. These are the individuals who engage in the physical labor necessary to provide the material goods and services that sustain the society. Their role is to fulfill the basic needs of the community, including agriculture, craftsmanship, and trade. Workers may not have the same intellectual capacity as the rulers, nor the same courage as the warriors, but their contribution is no less essential. Just as appetite in the soul provides the basic drives that sustain life, the workers provide the essential material resources that keep society functioning. The structure of Plato's ideal society is therefore a model of specialization, where each class performs the task for which it is best suited. The rulers govern with wisdom, the warriors protect with courage, and the workers provide for all with their labor. This division of labor is meant to ensure that each individual can contribute to society in the most effective way possible, leading to a harmonious, just, and well-ordered community. One of the most powerful aspects of Plato's model is its emphasis on the importance of each individual knowing their role and fulfilling it to the best of their ability. In Plato's ideal society, people are not divided by arbitrary class distinctions or social mobility. Instead, they are assigned roles based on their natural abilities and strengths. Plato believed that by doing so, society would avoid the conflicts that arise when individuals pursue roles they are not suited for. For instance, a person who is suited to be a philosopher should not be placed in the role of a warrior, nor should someone with a natural aptitude for physical labor be thrust into governance. By each person fulfilling their role, society would achieve justice and avoid the chaos of a disordered, dysfunctional system. This concept of justice in the ideal society has profound implications for how we view our roles in the modern world. In a contemporary context, the idea of having a clearly defined role in society according to one's strengths might seem idealistic. In modern societies, we often find that individuals are pushed to pursue certain careers or lifestyles based on external pressures, such as economic need, social expectations, or the desire for status. The reality of this pressure can lead to frustration, as people may feel trapped in roles that do not align with their true strengths or aspirations. Plato's model invites us to reflect on the possibility of a society where individuals are encouraged to follow their natural inclinations and abilities, where justice is not about conformity but about creating the conditions for each individual to thrive in their most authentic role. A modern example that resonates with Plato's vision of a society where roles are based on innate strengths can be seen in the work of leaders such as Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Bezos is known for his intellectual drive, visionary leadership, and capacity to think long-term. He was able to build one of the most successful companies in the world by focusing on areas where he excelled: innovation, business strategy, and technology. His example reflects the kind of specialized contribution that Plato envisioned for the ruling class in his ideal society. Bezos did not force himself into a role outside of his natural strengths. Instead, he carved out a space where his abilities could thrive, thus contributing to the success of his company and the global economy. Similarly, in the realm of defense and national security, leaders like General James Mattis, a former U.S. Secretary of Defense, reflect the spirit of the warrior class in Plato's model. Mattis is a figure who exemplifies the kind of disciplined, courageous leadership that Plato described as essential for those tasked with defending society. His career in the military and his focus on national security issues demonstrate the importance of having individuals in positions of power who are deeply attuned to the needs of the society they are meant to protect. On the other hand, the workers in Plato's model, those who engage in manual labor, trade, and other essential services, can be seen in the modern world through individuals who contribute in ways that are often overlooked but remain essential for the smooth functioning of society. Take, for example, the millions of healthcare workers, teachers, and other essential workers who have carried society through difficult times, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. These individuals may not be in positions of great political power or intellectual prestige, but their roles are no less important. Without the essential contributions of these workers, society would not be able to function. While Plato's model of the ideal society emphasizes the importance of each class fulfilling its role, it also recognizes the need for harmony among the classes. The philosopher kings must govern wisely, not with a desire for power or wealth, but for the good of the society as a whole. Similarly, the warriors must act with courage and discipline, not out of personal ambition, but to protect the common good. The workers, too, must contribute not out of selfishness or greed, but with a sense of responsibility to the greater whole. This vision of a harmonious society, in which each class works together for the common good, reflects Plato's broader philosophical beliefs about justice. Justice, in Plato's view, is not just about individuals following the law or adhering to societal norms. It is about each person fulfilling their role and contributing to the overall harmony of the society. This vision of justice challenges us to think about how we can contribute to the greater good in our own lives, and how our actions can support the well-being of the larger community. In today's world, the struggle for balance is a key issue. Many of us face the challenge of juggling personal aspirations, family responsibilities, and career ambitions, all while trying to contribute to the collective good of society. In a sense, the modern world is often out of balance. Individuals are encouraged to pursue their own desires, sometimes at the expense of the common good, and society often becomes fractured as a result. Plato's model asks us to reflect on how we can contribute to society in a way that is both fulfilling for ourselves and beneficial for the larger community. It reminds us that justice is not about individual achievement or status, but about the way in which each person's contributions work together to create a harmonious whole. One of the most pressing issues in modern society is the question of social justice and inequality. In Plato's ideal society, everyone would be placed in the role that best suits their abilities, regardless of wealth, status, or social background. While this idea may seem utopian, it offers a valuable insight into the importance of fairness and equality in society. If we can create a society where people are valued for their abilities and contributions, rather than for their social status or material wealth, we will be closer to achieving the justice Plato envisioned. In conclusion, Plato's vision of the ideal society offers valuable lessons for our own time. It challenges us to reflect on the roles we play in society, to recognize the importance of each individual's contribution, and to consider how we can contribute to the greater good. By striving for harmony and justice in our relationships and our communities, we can work toward a society that is more just, more balanced, and more fulfilling for all. Plato's philosophy, centered around the concept of the forms, presents a radically different way of understanding knowledge, reality, and existence. The core tenet of his thought is that the true essence of all things is not found in the physical, changing world around us, but rather in the immutable and eternal realm of the forms. This notion challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about what constitutes true knowledge and how we can approach the quest for wisdom. In Plato's view, the world we perceive with our senses is a mere shadow of a higher, more perfect reality. The objects and events we encounter daily are fleeting, subject to decay and change, but the forms are timeless and unchanging. According to Plato, knowledge based on sensory experience is inherently unreliable and limited. Our senses can only provide us with imperfect reflections of the true nature of things. True knowledge, in contrast, comes from intellectual insight into the form's abstract, perfect ideals that represent the essence of all things. To illustrate this, Plato offers the allegory of the cave, one of his most powerful metaphors. The prisoners in the cave, bound in place and unable to move, see only the shadows of objects cast on the wall by the light of a fire. For them, these shadows are the only reality they know. However, when one prisoner escapes and sees the outside world, he discovers the true reality, illuminated by the sun. The sun represents the ultimate source of knowledge and truth, the good, the highest form. The allegory speaks to the human tendency to accept the superficial and the familiar, without questioning whether there is a deeper, more profound reality beyond our immediate experience. In our modern world, it is all too easy to be like the prisoners in the cave. We are surrounded by distractions and superficial representations of reality. The constant influx of information from social media, news outlets, and entertainment often shapes our perceptions of the world. And yet we rarely stop to question the validity or depth of that information. Plato's philosophy challenges us to look beyond appearances and seek a deeper understanding of the world. Just as the freed prisoner must struggle to adjust to the bright light of the sun, so too must we be willing to face the discomfort and difficulty of questioning our assumptions and embracing a more profound truth. One of the most important lessons Plato's philosophy offers is the value of reason in the pursuit of knowledge. For Plato, the rational part of the soul is the most important and the most capable of understanding the forms. It is through reason that we can transcend the limitations of our senses and access the true, eternal nature of reality. In the context of today's society, where emotions, biases, and superficial knowledge often influence our decisions, Plato's emphasis on reason is particularly relevant, whether in our personal lives or in the realm of politics, economics, or social issues. We are often swayed by emotional appeals or surface-level arguments. Yet, as Plato would argue, only through careful reasoning and reflection can we hope to uncover the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface. In Plato's ideal society, the rulers who are philosopher kings are those who have gained knowledge of the forms through their intellectual pursuits and are best suited to govern with wisdom and justice. The philosopher king is not a ruler motivated by power or wealth, but by a deep commitment to understanding the truth and ensuring the well-being of the whole community. This vision of governance is strikingly different from the often self-interested politics we encounter today. Plato's philosopher king embodies the ideal of leadership grounded in wisdom and reason, rather than the pursuit of personal gain. In the modern world, we see examples of individuals who embody some aspects of Plato's vision of leadership. Consider someone like Bill Gates, who has used his immense wealth and influence to fund initiatives aimed at addressing global health challenges and promoting education. Gates has spent much of his life pursuing intellectual projects, whether in the world of technology or philanthropy. His approach to leadership, while not perfect, reflects Plato's ideal of using knowledge and reason to contribute to the greater good. Similarly, figures like Angela Merkel, the former Chancellor of Germany, have demonstrated leadership grounded in reason, pragmatism, and a commitment to societal welfare. Despite facing complex political challenges, these figures, though not philosopher kings in the Platonic sense, offer a glimpse of how intellectual wisdom and a commitment to the common good can shape effective leadership. The role of the philosopher king also highlights Plato's belief in the importance of education. In the Republic, Plato argues that only those who have undergone rigorous philosophical training are fit to rule. This education should not only focus on practical skills, but should also encourage individuals to contemplate the nature of justice, truth, and the good. In today's world, education is often viewed primarily as a means of job preparation. But Plato's philosophy reminds us that true education should aim to cultivate wisdom and a deep understanding of the world. Whether through formal education or personal reflection, we all have the potential to cultivate the intellectual virtues that Plato valued, such as reason, temperance, and justice. Plato's ideas about the ideal society also offer valuable insights into the role of individuals within a community. In the Republic, he argues that a just society is one where each person fulfills the role that suits their natural abilities. This division of labor ensures that society functions harmoniously, with each class contributing to the common good. For Plato, justice is not simply a matter of individuals following the law. It is about each person doing what they are best suited to do, whether as a ruler, a warrior, or a worker. In the modern world, we face many challenges in achieving this kind of social harmony. The division of labor is often based on factors other than natural ability, such as wealth, social status, or privilege. Many people are forced to take on roles that do not align with their talents or passions, leading to frustration and discontent. Plato's vision of a society where people are encouraged to pursue roles based on their strengths, rather than external pressures or arbitrary distinctions, offers an ideal to strive for. Of course, the modern world is far more complex than the society Plato envisioned, but his emphasis on justice as the harmonious fulfillment of each person's role remains an important guiding principle. Perhaps one of the most profound aspects of Plato's philosophy is his emphasis on the need for intellectual and spiritual growth. Plato did not view the pursuit of knowledge as merely an academic exercise, but as a means of attaining a deeper, more meaningful understanding of life and existence. True knowledge, for Plato, is not just about learning facts or acquiring information. It is about cultivating wisdom, understanding the nature of the forms, and aligning oneself with the good. In a world that often prioritizes material success, instant gratification, and external achievements, Plato's focus on intellectual and moral development offers a powerful counterpoint. It challenges us to reconsider what it means to live a meaningful life. Are we merely accumulating wealth and status, or are we striving for a deeper understanding of the world and our place in it? Plato's philosophy reminds us that the pursuit of true knowledge is a lifelong journey, one that requires dedication, reflection, and a willingness to look beyond the surface to uncover the deeper truths that shape our existence. As we navigate our lives in the 21st century, Plato's ideas about reason, knowledge, justice, and the ideal society remain deeply relevant. They offer a framework for questioning the status quo, examining our assumptions, and seeking a deeper, more meaningful understanding of the world. By embracing reason and reflection, we can move beyond the shadows of superficial understanding and approach the light of true knowledge. In doing so, we can cultivate a more just, harmonious society, grounded in wisdom and intellectual pursuit. Plato's philosophy is not merely an abstract or academic exercise. It is a call to action. It urges us to look beyond the surface, question our assumptions, and strive for a deeper understanding of the world. By doing so, we can break free from the chains that limit our perception and move closer to the light of true knowledge. This is the path that Plato set before us, a path that, if followed, can lead us to greater wisdom, justice, and fulfillment. The pursuit of knowledge, wisdom, and justice is not an easy one, but it is a path worth walking. As we continue to explore the world of ideas and seek deeper truths, let us remember the lessons of Plato, that the world is more than what we see with our senses. That reason is our guide to deeper understanding, and that true justice is found in the harmonious fulfillment of each person's role in society. Through reflection, reason, and a commitment to the common good, we can strive to build a society that is grounded in wisdom, justice, and the pursuit of knowledge. If you found this exploration of Plato's philosophy engaging and thought-provoking, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful discussions on philosophy, knowledge, and the world of ideas. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on future videos that dive deep into timeless concepts and challenge us to think more critically about the world around us. Let's continue this journey of intellectual discovery together and keep exploring the power of reason, knowledge, and justice. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to bringing you more content that helps us all grow and reflect.